Hello everyone, my name is Adeeba and I'm from Katihar Medical College and we were studying about the algae just from the Verticus five kingdom classification algae. We have been through brown algae and the red algae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae, and we were covering green algae, which is termed as Chlorophyceae. There is a relationship between green algae and the land plants because green algae is actually the ancestors of the land plant. It is called the ancestors of land plant. And why is it called the ancestors of land plant? Because of the presence of the same pigment, chlorophyll A and B, carotenoids, and the other pigments like chloroplasts which are present in the algae, they are actually similar to the land plants. So it is believed that these green algae have actually evolved into land plants. They are the ancestors. So the following points suggest the chlorophycean origin of the land plants, that both the green algae and the land plants have the same type of chlorophyll A and B carotenoid pigments and are similar in the two groups. Both the groups have the same cellulose, pectic compounds, and in their walls, starch is the common storage carbohydrate. So, starch is the common carbohydrate which is present even in the land plants as well as in the algae. It consists of both amylose and amylopectin. So, amylose and amylopectin is actually the constituent of carbohydrate and similar flagella in the motile structures. So, if there is any motile structure which is present in the land plants, the flagella is basically similar between these two. So, these are the points which make the green algae the ancestors of the land plants. Now, moving on to the common green algae, we have studied few terms like common green algae, volvox, Chlamydomonas, Yellowthrix, and Spirogyra, and Cara. These are all common algae which we see mostly and they have few or the other importance as well. So the first one is volvox. Volvox, it is a commonly called a rolling alga because it has a ball-like structure. We can see in the figure it has a ball-like structure, so it can easily roll or called as rolling ball. It is a green colonial alga of freshwater ponds, pools, lakes, and etc. So it can be seen in freshwater ponds, pools, and lakes. So mainly found in freshwater, not in brackish water, not in warm water, not in deep seas, but the freshwater. The colony is also called as cenobium. So this colony aggregate, it is called as cenobium. And this cenobium has cells which are approximately 500 to 60,000 cells. We can see 500 to 60,000 cells in this cenobium. The cells are biflagellate and are interconnected by a cytoplasmic strand. So we can see these are the cells, the ones I'm marking. These are the algal cells and they are interconnected by the cytoplasmic strands. Cytoplasmic strands are present between these two cells which help in their interconnection and forming an aggregate and a colony. Now each cell has 2 to 6 contractile vacuoles and a single nucleus. Now if we assume that this is an algal cell, it is going to have 2 to 6 contractile vacuoles and a single nucleus with chloroplast, with a chloroplast, single chloroplast with a stigma of one or more pyramid. And the colony of the volvox swims in water with the help of a coordinated flagellar movement of individual cells. The colony rotates on its axis while swimming. So this colony is going to rotate on its axis while swimming. Asexual reproduction occurs by the formation of daughter colonies. Daughter colonies are formed for asexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction will be by the help of formation of by the gametes and the fusion of them. Now, the sexual reproduction is oogamous by the formation of gametes. Reproduction occurs or gonidia are larger than the remaining somatic cells. So these reproductive cells or the gonidia, they are usually larger than the remaining somatic cells and they occur in the posterior region. So if we are seeing the colony, the or the reproductive cells, those cells are going to be present at the back portion of the colony. They won't be visible on the surface, but inside or maybe at the back of the colony. And usually these cells are larger than the somatic cells. The cells which are present, which are forming an aggregate, the reproductive cells will be larger than those. So some points of Volvox, it is mainly an aggregate, and because it forms an aggregate and looks like a ball, it is called as rolling ball. This green colonial algal freshwater, it is found mainly in the ponds, pools, lakes, and the colony is also called as cenobium. This colony has aggregate of about 500 to 500 to 60,000 cells. So this cell aggregate is called as cenobium, and they have also given the characteristic of each cell. It is having 2 to 6 contractile vacuoles with a single chloroplast and a single cell. Can also have a stigma with one or more pyrenoids. The colony, it swims by the help of the flagellar movements which is coordinated. All the cells in this colony are going to have the coordinated flagellar movement by the help of which this colony is going to move. And it can also roll. It can move, or it can also rotate on its own axis. Moving on to the next common alga, it is Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas is one of the most primitive unicellular member of the green plants. We know that Chlamydomonas is a single cell. It is found in standing water of ponds, ditches, swimming pools, lakes, rainwater tanks, and on damp soil. So it can be seen in ponds, ditches, swimming pools, lakes, rainwater tanks, and on the damp soil. Its thallus consists of a single tiny green cell. So it is not an aggregate of cell but only a single cell which has different shapes. It can be termed as an elliptical shape, or it can be termed as a pear shaped. Now, elliptical shape and pear shape, they have a nearly curved margin. But in case of Chlamydomonas, it is going to be pointed. Green shape, which is rounded, ellipsoidal, or pear shape, more or less pointed at its anterior end. The cell is surrounded by a thin but firm and transparent cell wall. So, this cell is surrounded by a thin cell wall which is made up of cellulose, and sometimes it can also be surrounded by a gelatinous pectic sheath which is external to the cell wall. So there is a cell wall present, and out of which on the outer side there is a pectic sheath present. This is cell wall made up of cellulose, and this is pectic sheath which is present, which is gelatinous pectic sheath is present. Now, Chlamydomonas, in the structure, we can see that there is an eye spot present. We know that all the motile green algae, they have an eye spot as well. So, because of the presence of flagella, it is going to be motile, and due to its motility, eye spot is present. There are contractile vacuoles, basal granules are seen, nucleus, cytoplasm, and a single cup-shaped chloroplast. We know that there are different sizes of the chloroplast. There's different shapes of chloroplast, cup shape, spindle shape, different types of shapes of chloroplast are present, one of which is cup shape, which is found in Chlamydomonas. Pyrenoid, it is a storage form. Now, asexual reproduction takes place this by zoospores, aplanospores, hypnospores, and palmella stage. So, asexual reproduction is mainly by spores, and the spores which help in asexual reproduction in the Chlamydomonas, it is zoospores, aplanospores, hypnospores, and palmella stage. Sexual reproduction is of isogamous, anisogamous, and oogamous type. Sexual reproduction is isogamous, anisogamous, and oogamous. Isogamous type of sexual reproduction we say when both the gametes they have similar structure, morphology, and they can when we look at them have similar shape, size, and structure. So it can either be similar shape, or it can either be presence of flagella. Both are motile, both are same in size, both are non-motile, both are same in size, but they should be exactly same to each other. When the gametes have the same structure, we term it as isogamous type of reproduction. Whenever the gametes they have different shape, one is large and one is small, one is motile and one is non-motile, then it is termed as an isogamous type of reproduction. And oogamous type of reproduction, the hard and fast rule is that the gametes, the male gamete is going to be motile and small, and the female gamete should be large and non-motile. So these gametes fuse to form zygote, which is diploid structure, and it undergoes meiosis and forms haploid zoospores, which develop into adult vegetative cells. So we can see that when these gametes fuse. Fusion of gametes. It will lead to formation of zygote. These gametes are N and this zygote is 2N. Now this zygote will undergo meiosis and form haploid, that is zoospores. Haploid zoospores will have N and this will develop into adult vegetative cell. Okay. Now a quick recap of Chlamydomonas, that it is the most primitive and unicellular member of the green algae, which can be found in freshwater, ponds, and ditches, all the water which we can see around us. Second is that its thallus is only a single cell. And the peculiar features of the Chlamydomonas is that mainly it has the cell wall of cellulose, and sometimes there is a gelatinous pectinous sheath which is also present outside the cell wall. Now, asexual reproduction, it can be by different type of spores, which can be zoospores, aplanospores, hypnospores, and palmella stage. Whereas the sexual reproduction can be isogamous, zoogamous, or anisogamous, and the fusion of gamete will take place and give the formation of zygote. These zygote will undergo meiosis, division, and form zoospores. Now, these zoospores further convert into adult vegetative cell. In this diagram, there is a cycle. There are two cycles which are going on in the life of a Chlamydomonas. One is a sexual reproduction, and the other one, the asexual reproduction. In the sexual reproduction, I have already explained that there is formation of gametes. Now, these gametes, the fusion of gametes takes place, formation of zygote, which is termed as zygospore. Now, in this zygospore, takes place, reduction, division, and formation of zoospores. These zoospores will be N, and this can give rise to a vegetative plant body very easily. Now, in asexual reproduction, the plant is going to develop zoospores. Now, these zoospores further undergo division and form daughter cells, and due to the formation of aggregate of cells, it is called as palmella state. And when this palmella state, it can either give rise to, from the daughter cell, it can either give rise to an adult plant body, or from these zoospores, by the help of asexual reproduction, these zoospores can also form adult plant cells. So there are two ways, either by the directly by zoospore, or when the zoospore forms daughter cells, now these daughter cells can give rise to the plant body. So these are the two type of reproduction which takes place in now Kara. Kara is a commonly called aquatic horsetail. It is called as aquatic horsetail. It is a green algae found growing in the bottom of a shallow freshwater of ponds, pools, and lakes. So usually these are found in the shallow freshwaters of ponds and pools and lakes, and it is a food for many aquatic animals. Many aquatic animals feed on it. Plant is fixed to the substratum by means of branched multicellular rhizoids. So there are rhizoids present at the base of the cara by, with the help of which the plant is attached to the substratum. The male sex organ is rounded antheridium. It lies below the oval female sex organ called as oogonium. So the male sex organ, it is a rounded antheridium under which an oval structure oogonium is present. It multiplies by fragmentation, by tubers or bulbils, or by secondary protonema. So there is the presence of protonema stage as well, which helps in reproduction, whereas it can also multiply by fragmentation, which is a vegetative kind of reproduction. Tuber formation of tuber is also vegetative, and bulbils, it is also vegetative kind of reproduction. So it can, the type of reproduction in which Kara undergoes, it is vegetative, asexual as well as sexual because of the presence of oogonium and antheridium. Okay. Now the fourth one is Ulothrix. Ulothrix, it is found attached to the substratum in the running cool water, forming a bright green mass. So a bright green mass like structure, if we see in the water, it is mainly Ulothrix, but may also be found floating on the surface. But it can also be found floating on the surface. Its thallus is plant-like body and in the form of a slender filament. We can see the structure of Ulothrix. It is like a slender filament-like structure, which is made up of the aggregate of cell in the form of a filament in a row. Composed of a single row of small rectangular cells. These are an individual cell of Eulothrix. You can see that they are present in a single row rectangular cells. In attached filament, the basal cell is elongated and narrow and is brown or white in color. So this basal cell, it is usually elongated, okay, and it is narrow as well, elongated and narrow, and it is called as holdfast. It is holdfast mainly helps in the attachment of the plant filament to the substratum. By holdfast filament is attached to the substratum. Ulothrix reproduces asexually by zoospores. So zoospores, aplanospores, hypnospores, these are the different kind of spores which are produced by help of which the Ulothrix reproduces. Transpose A kinase in Palmella stage. Palmella stage we have studied that if the reproduction starts taking place in the zoospores and daughter cells are formed, and after which a new plant body is formed, it is called as palmella stage. Sexual reproduction is of isogamous type. What is isogamous type? It means the gametes are going to have similar structure. Either they can both be motile and same in size, or they can both be non-motile but similar in size. The basic structure of the filament of Ulothrix, it is the presence of middle lamella. There is a lamella present, the outer layer, the outer surface, the inner layer. So there are two. The cell is usually two layered, the outer layer and the inner layer. The central vacuole and cytoplasm, whereas the cell wall it is made up of cellulose. Pyrenoids are the storage material. Nucleus is always present. Chloroplast are also seen. The small cells which we see are chloroplast, and by this we can see that the filament of Ulysses it is made up of a single cell which are arranged in a row. Now Spirogyra. So Spirogyra it is a free floating filamentous alga found abundantly in ponds, pools, ditches, springs and slow running streams. So they are found in usually ponds, swimming pools and ditches when water stops and slow running streams, etc., and forms a scum or silk like surface on the surface of the water. So, whenever we see a silk like surface or greenish scum over a stagnant pool, it is mainly due to spirogyra, scum or silk over the water surface. Hence, it is called as pond scum or water silk. So, the other term for spirogyra it is pond scum or water silk. Plant body is a multicellular unbranched filament consisting of a single row of cylindrical cells. The single row of cells which are rectangular in shape that is eulothrix, but a single row of cell which is cylindrical in shape that is mainly spirogyra. The cells are identical and are not differentiated into basal or apical cells. So they are not differentiated into basal or apical like in eulothrix. We know that there was a basal cell and the apical cell. It reproduces vegetatively by fragmentation, sexual reproduction, and is isogamous type. Sexual reproduction is isogamous type. It takes place by the fusion of two non-motile gametes. So the sexual reproduction it is takes place by non-motile gametes formed by same or different filaments. Can be either by the formation of same or different filaments, and the process is termed as conjugation. So if a term conjugation is there, for which it is used for the reproduction of spirogyra. And what is conjugation? The sexual it the sexual type of a sexual reproduction which takes place by the fusion of two non-motile gametes which are formed by the same or the different filaments. It is called as conjugation. There is another term, another type of conjugation which is present in the bacteria. Bacterial cells usually multiply or they transfer the gene material by the help of the formation of conjugation with the help of a sex pillar. So that is other type of conjugation. And in the spirogyra, there is some other type of conjugation which is taking place. Now, the economic importance of the green algae. We have seen that all the algae have some or the other kind of economic importance associated with them. In this case, we'll see that food. Now, the alga, they are mainly used as food. Number of green algae are used as food, as such as alga, chlorepa, and enteromorpha. So all these kind of algae they can be used as food as well, which are mainly used in Japan or maybe in the aircraft, spacecraft. So chlorella, it is a rich source of lipid protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, alga, and enteromorpha were earlier used in salads and soups, so they are not now very prevalent in the form of food, alga and enteromorpha, whereas chlorella, it is a rich source of lipid, protein, and carbohydrates, as well as vitamins. So it is usually used in the spacecraft. Antibiotics, chlorella and chlorella, they are used in extracting antibiotics. They are not used as an antibiotic, but some kind of antibiotic is extracted from these two green algae. Third, parasitic algae. So, Syphilis causes red rust disease in tea and cold coffee plants and reduces their yield. So, one drawback of a growth of Syphilis that it causes the red rust disease in tea and coffee plants and thereby reduces their yield. Fourth is the soil fertility. Now, the soil inhabiting green algae increases soil fertility by adding organic matter. So whenever we want to increase the soil fertility, we will increase the amount of green algae present beside it in sewage oxidation. Chlorella and Chlamydomonas carry out oxidation of sewage in sewage ponds. So in the sewage ponds, the gunk and the dirt is oxidated mainly by the help of chlorella and chlamydomonas. They both help in the oxidation of the sewage and reducing the increasing the biological oxygen demand as well. So soil fertility and sewage treatment, space flight. As I was talking about, the chlorella is used in the prolonged space flights as well because first of all it is a very good source of protein, carbohydrates, minerals and vitamins. And second is that it can also be used in the generation of oxygen and food and utilization of carbon monoxide. So it is helping in both the ways. It can also act as a food source and it can also help in the generation of oxygen and also utilizes the carbon monoxide which is released and excretory waste. So in space flights, mainly chlorella is used. Bloom. Now, excessive growth of chlorella, Candesmus, Chlamydomonas, etc. gives a bad odor and taste to water. Whenever we see that the water is not tasting as good as it should, there is usually no taste to water. But if it tastes a bit odd or there is a bad smell which is coming from the water, it is mainly due to the presence of chlorella and spendesmus and chlamydomonas, etc. There can be other green algae as well. This is called as algal bloom. Because of the growth of the green algae, which is mainly algal bloom, there is a bad taste and bad odor to water. Due to deficiency of oxygen in the water bodies, animal life declines rapidly. Whenever there is algal bloom on the surface of the water, what happens is that the green algae is going to use up all the oxygen from the water. And because of the increased usage of oxygen by these green algae, the water bodies which are present inside the water, usually the animals, their life is going to decline rapidly because of the absence of the required amount of oxygen which they need in order to survive. So, for the economic importance of algae, we have seen that food, mainly it is used as food, chlorella and but enteromorpha and alga are not now usually used. Antibiotics, chlorella and cholera, they are used for extracting antibiotics. Or the other kind of antibiotic is extracted from both of them. Parasitic algae. There are some parasitic algae which is also present, which causes red rust in tea and coffee plant. So their growth should be inhibited near coffee plants and the tea, the tea trees, because it is going to reduce the yield. Soil fertility. Whenever we plant tea green algae near the soil, which is going to be cultivated, so it will increase the soil fertility of it. Sewage oxidation in it helps chlorella and chlamydomonas will help in the oxidation of the sewage in ponds. Now, in space flights, we have seen that chlorella is used in prolonged space flight because of its many benefits. First benefit is that it can be used as a food source. It can be used as a very good food source because it is rich in carbohydrate, vitamin, protein, and in minerals, whereas it can also help in the usage of carbon monoxide, production of oxygen, because we all know that there is no other source of oxygen in the spacecraft, and it also removes all the other waste from the atmosphere and use it up in order to produce its nutrition and helps in the production of oxygen. Bloom. Now there is excessive bloom or growth. Whenever there is excessive bloom of chlorella, candescence, it is going to give bad odor because of the usage up of all the oxygen. So the water stinks. It gives a bad odor. It gives an ill taste to water, because of which the plant body, mainly the marine plant body, which are mainly fishes or some other plants which are inside the water, they have a hard time surviving because of the algal bloom on the surface of the pond. Now, the difference between zoospore and zygospore. We have used this term zoospore and zygospore, both these terms, in the reproduction of Chlamydomonas. In the cycle which I have shown, there is a production of zoospore and zygospore. Zoospores and the production of zygospores. Zygospores. So the main difference between the production of zoospores and zygospores is mainly that one is formed by the help of meiosis, and one is formed mainly by the help of meiosis, and one is formed by the fusion. So zygospore, it takes place during sexual reproduction by the fusion of two gametes. So whenever two gametes fuse, the production of zygospores occurs, and it is diploid. Whenever there is a fusion of two cells, it is always going to be diploid. So 2n, and by fusion, by the help of fusion of two gametes, and it is mainly diploid. Now, chloroplast, pyrenoid, contractile vacuoles, eye spot, flagella are not found. So, the basic feature of a cell, as in Chlamydomonas, we have seen that chloroplast, pyrenoid, contractile vacuole, these all were present inside the cell. So, all these are missing in case of a zygospore. It is usually cell lacking all these features. It is just a cell. It undergoes a period of rest with a favorable condition approaches. So it is going to undergo a period of rest until and unless the favorable condition approaches, like maximum nutrition, light, the availability of it. Now, it undergoes meiosis to form 4 to 16 meiospores, which grow into new filament of the cell. So it can also undergo meiosis, giving rise to 4 to 16 meiospores, which grow into a new filament or cells. Whereas zoospores, it is a unit of asexual reproduction, which is produced by the repeated mitotic division of the protoplast of the cell. Whenever there is a repeated mitotic division of the protoplast of cell, zoospores are formed, which are and this is a unit of asexual reproduction, whereas zygospore, it is produced during sexual reproduction. So major difference between these two is that the zoospore is of asexual reproduction and zygospore by the sexual reproduction. Now zoospore is haploid and zygospore diploid because it is formed by the fusion, and the zoospore, it is formed by reduction division. Now, haploid structure. Each zoospore has a chloroplast with a single pyrenoid haploid nucleus, two contractile vacuoles, and an eye spot. It bears two or four flagella. So it has chloroplast, single pyrenoid, haploid nucleus, two contractile vacuoles, an eye spot, and bears two or four flagella, just exactly as the structure of a chlamydomonas, because the body of the Chlamydomonas is haploid, vegetative body. Now it undergoes a period of rest before germination. It undergoes a period of rest before germination, whereas zygospore, there is it does not undergo period of rest before germination, whereas zygospore, it undergoes a period of rest before germination. Now then there is no rest before it undergoes germination, so it is directly converts into a new filament or a cell. It will give rise to a new plant very early because it is not undergoing a period of rest. Whereas zygospore, it undergoes meiosis or it undergoes a period of rest. And if it undergoes meiosis, it gives rise to 4 to 16 meiospores, which grow into new filament or cells. So we have been through the green algae and the common green algae as well, like volvox, chlamydomonas, cara. eulothrix, and pyrogyra. We have seen the five important green algae and the importance of the green algae, the economic importance, which is mainly in food, antibiotics, soil fertility, seepage oxidation, space flight, bloom, and the basic division between zoospore and zygospore. In the next session, we will start another topic, which is bryophyte, mainly the vascular plant, bryophyte, and from that onward, we will see the important bryophytes, liverworts, hornworts, and mosses, and different kind of and its different importance as well. Thank you so much.